Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host Rashid. I got a little pillow behind my back because my back is bothering me today. But I'd like to thank each and every one of you all for joining me on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth, and especially across every social media platform. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host Rashid. Thank you for giving me another hour of your day and another day of your time. Listen, everyone, we're waiting for Martin Sieff to join us. I just want to put a caveat, a couple caveats up here. I was informed by him personally that that they have some real serious family matters that are going on. I can't disclose what is going on, but I can just put it out there. So at any moment, some things can go from dire to worse, and they have to handle that right then and there. So during the show, as we're talking, he should join us if it doesn't go from to this worst situation. And besides that, I'll be communicating with him a little bit while we're doing the show. So I just want to inform each and every one of you who are listening, and you know my word is my bond. So there are things that go on in everybody's life, and we have to deal with it, and we have to keep it pushing. So hopefully he'll be able to join us, and hopefully he'll join us. As a matter of fact, let me do something real quick while I'm talking to you. Okay, give me 1 second while I'm talking to you all. And again, thank you all for joining me. Here he is, right here. He just hit me up. Hold on 1 second. I'm live now. Waiting for you. All right. All right. He just hit me up. He said he hit the wrong time also. He said he mixed it up in his schedule, okay? So give him a little bit. Hopefully he can join us right now. It just so happened I just looked in the thing and saw it. So God is good all the time. Everybody, let's talk about a few things that are going on while we wait for him. So I was just looking at some of the latest in the breaking news that is going on around the world. We see that what they say a Ukraine skeptic has been elected as the U.S. House Speaker. Now, my thing is this. Does it really matter? Does it make a difference? Will it change the course of American policy and politics domestically and internationally? If these things are no, then who the hell cares? I'm asking. If America is still going to be provocative, belligerent, condescending, imperialistic, militaristic, and arrogant, who the hell cares? Does it? Oh, he's in the booth. He's coming in the booth right now. I see him. It says device is not connected, but he's trying to connect. So as we're talking, he's trying to connect in the booth right now. But let me ask you these questions again. We had I see him in there. I see no picture, but I'll bring him in just a second. Martin, I'll bring you in just a second, and then I want you to if you're listening and if you can hear me, I want you to expound on what I'm about to say as I bring you in. We just got word that the United States has elected a new Speaker of the House. Now, my questions are this, because these are basic and fundamental questions that should be asked, okay? If America is still going to be militaristic, imperialistic, arrogant, if she's still going to disregard the national security of others and the national interests of others, and if she is continuing to push her policy at the expense of everybody, does it really matter that we have a new House Speaker? Now, with that said, let me bring Martin in and see if we can add him to the chat.
Okay. Hang on. I can hear you and see you well, Rashid, so at least I can speak with you.
Okay.
I'm looking here. It's probably my own mess here to try and get a picture for you. But at the meantime, at least I can talk with you. And I fully agree with your assessment. I don't tell me who is the new speaker. I hadn't even heard yet, but I agree with you. It probably doesn't matter.
If the new speaker is, hold on, let me click on it for you. A Trump ally, Mike Johnson. He has it says Republican Mike Johnson, a staunch supporter of former U.S. President Donald Trump, has been elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives. The results come after weeks of congressional gridlock and signals a noticeable shift towards the right for his party in the lower chamber. Now, Martin, Why is that a shift a noticeable shift when American policy is still belligerent and still arrogant and still provocative? How can there be a noticeable shift when nothing is shifting?
Actually, I think it may be at long, long last, Rashid, because he is a supporter of Trump. And what this shows is that the Republican majority who in the House who hate Trump, who, as you and I both know, are long time, they have been stymied. They wanted to get one of their own people like Scalise in as speaker. I actually had a higher personal regard, as you know personally, about Kevin McCarthy. But although Kevin McCarthy is a decent human being and personally at least as honest as a man as you can get in that position, he did not have the strength of character or political self-confidence to do what he privately, I think, knew needed to be done. There wasn't going to be no change under him. It would have been much worse under Scalise. But what we see here is Trump could only directly control a small number of people in the House. But because the House is so evenly divided, that gave him veto power. The Democrats, being stupid, played into Trump's hands. The Democrats keep trying to destroy Trump by playing these pathetic little games on him that nobody in the country believes in for a second. And then because they are even more corrupt and stupid than the Republicans, they self-destruct every time, and they've done it again. Because they will be panicking in Kiev. Right now, Zelensky's people will be stuffing their suitcases with American dollars, which they still think is worth something to them, and will be preparing to run for their lives, because it is really feasible that the money flow, even if it does not stop, will be tightened a bit at long last on Ukraine. It may not be, and of course we still have Biden in the White House with all his executive powers, even when he simply is not there anymore. The world is full of sharp, bright people in the early 80s. Unfortunately, the President of the United States, as you and I know, is not one of them. So now we have the House going in a new direction, but there's also pure chaos there as well, because as well as the Ukraine crisis, we have the Israel-Gaza crisis, and it is hugely important for the United States. We have ignored this festering mess for 17 years. The living conditions of the people of Gaza have been abominable for generations. Point one. Point two, both the Israelis and the US let Hamas run Gaza, and they did not do so for, cynical well, it was very cynical and selfish, but it wasn't for diabolically cunning and clever reasons. It was because Netanyahu and successive presidents of the United States were incompetent, passive, stupid cowards and didn't know what to do. So they left the 2 million people in Gaza to be controlled, brainwashed by a totalitarian, genocidal movement, which is Hamas, for the last 17 years. And finally, Hamas cut loose and took advantage of the gross incompetence of the Israeli army, which is another story again. And you have 1,400 Israeli civilians killed, and the Israelis have now killed more than that number in Gaza. Now, of course, what we should try and do is work with other countries to impose a ceasefire on both sides to stop the Israeli bombing of Gaza, to ensure that there are no more Hamas breakouts to massacre the Israelis either. And we need to start trying to end the conflict from there, because if we don't, we are going to have a genocidal war to the death between the Israelis and the Palestinians in Gaza and the wider Middle East, and that will be a catastrophe. And no one will win from that. No one. I mean, right now, we can't see that because the issue is so filled with hatred and polarization. I'm struck whenever you and I speak, you are always expressing love and embracement for people on every side. And what we see here is we have allowed this situation to drift into a situation through our own laziness and stupidity, where you have a zero-sum game where Hamas and the Israelis are bent on genocidal destruction of each other. And we've got to be able to push them away from that. We've got to be able to push them away from a genocidal sum game, because genocide is a monstrous evil thing when it happens in Ukraine, when it happens anywhere in the world, when the United States makes it happen in Bangladesh in 1970-71, or a million Chinese people in Indonesia that we turned our back on and gave the green light to be slaughtered in 1965-66. I know from your face you know these stories all too well. But at least, horrific and monstrous as those things were, they did not threaten to engulf the whole world. The Middle East conflict does. It can pull in Christians and Jews and Muslims. It isn't just Muslims against Jews. It's Shiite Muslims against Jews. It's Shiite Muslims against mainstream Sunni Muslims. It's Hamas against other Muslims. It's Hamas and Iran potentially against the West. It's Russia and the Orthodox Christian militarized world having their grudge against both the Protestant and Catholic worlds. In America, where we're laid back and at least relatively tolerant of our religion, and it's good that we are, and we need to be more so. But we don't grasp that this isn't just Christians against Muslims, Muslims against Jews. It's also Orthodox Christians against Western Christians in Russia, looking at the resentment they feel and the lies they've been fed by Washington and London and Brussels, as you know, over the past 30 years. So we have this incredibly horrible, complicated mess. We have not educated the American public about it. We is really the wrong word, because I know you have, and your colleagues and friends have too, and I've tried to help you as well. But when it comes to the mainstream American media, the American public are piss ignorant, as you and I both know. And this is a recipe for catastrophe. It's put us into confrontation with Russia over Ukraine. It's putting us into confrontation with Iran now. The Syrians are in there too. And people forget that Netanyahu, not the Israeli people, but Netanyahu personally and the American government eagerly launched a civil war that killed 600,000 people in Syria. And had the Syrian government lost it, then there would have been genocides against the minority groups in Syria by the people, carried out, implemented by the people the United States was backing and arming in Syria, who were the hardline Islamists themselves. All of these endless ironies and hypocrisies and complications in the Middle East, which I know you know backwards, and I know all too well myself. I don't know. I see. Unfortunately, there isn't any vision for me. I apologize to you for that, but I love the look on your face because it reflects the way I'm thinking, man. Exactly. All these American hypocrisies and and British hypocrisies and NATO hypocrisies are catching up with us now. Our destruction of Libya in 2010 and 2011, our destruction of Syria in the Syrian civil war, the fact that even countries that were previously in our corner, like Saudi Arabia, fear us and distrust us now. That Turkey will not work with the United States because the United States has shafted Turkey so often before. All these consequences are building up now, and nobody addresses them. Americans are never taught history, and they are never taught to think as history. When you watch PBS, when you watch CBS, when you watch CNN, most of all, you get your brain lobotomized. You are given a new lies and new absurdities and new simplicities every day. And you are the anti-Wolf Blitzer, Rashid, right? You are the cure for Wolf Blitzer. Because look at you, you're sitting there, you're relaxed, you're wearing your baseball cap, you look like a human being, you have human reactions on your face. You don't pretend to be automatically dignified and slow and authoritative all the time, so you know you can believe every lie I come out with and every absurdity I come out with every 5 minutes, even though I reverse them myself between each commercial break. That's the mainstream style. And it isn't working class people who fall for this shit. It is the dignified ones, the thoughtful people, the people who think they're scientists but aren't, the bureaucrats who think they're thoughtful intellectuals. You couldn't get them to piss in Yankee Stadium if you planted them at first base. You couldn't get them to piss in Yankee Stadium if you put them at first base, but they're good enough to brainwash 300 million Americans.
Yeah.
That's what passes for their thinking.
And I want to go back to it's three parts that I want to go and dissect what you were saying. I want to go back a little bit, and I want to dissect the conversation that you and I were saying and the things that you were putting out. And we were talking about the changing of course of American policy, and you believe that this may be a change of course with the speaker that's being elected and who's an ally of Trump. And while you were talking, I Googled something, and I put in this so anybody who wants to find this out can just put in these keywords. How much money was given to Ukraine under Trump? I Googled this as we were talking, and September 29th, according to Reuters, which is a British news outlet, it says that it was the Trump administration who reinstated military aid for Ukraine. So I think on the outward appearance, it may look like because this guy voted against Ukraine on several occasions, it was President Trump administration which reinstated military aid for Ukraine.
Very good. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean
no, go ahead. I want you to answer that because I wanted you to address that for anybody who's out there listening.
Oh, by all means. The answer is everyone assumes you're dealing with geniuses who know what they're doing. Usually we're dealing with idiots. Now, if you look at Biden, this is obviously the case. I mean, he's 81, he's senile, and when he was 31, he wasn't much of an improvement then. I mean, he is not the brightest bulb on the planet. It's obvious. You look at former British Prime Minister Liz Truss, or most of all, I think, at least until Biden, the most stupid president conceivable in American history, George W. Bush. And these are, there used to be, I don't know if you remember it, Rashid, or you ever saw it as a kid. There used to be a British TV show called Thunderbirds. And the thing about it was all done with animation puppets, it was soft science fiction. But the fun thing was, first, they were all cliches of bad 1950s American Westerns. Everyone talked like this. And you weren't meant to take it seriously. It was made by Brits sending up the Americans, and the Americans were too dumb to see they were being sent up. But you could see the wires, on the puppets, and the puppets jerked in a ridiculous way. They were obviously puppets, and that was the appeal of the show, that it was done so badly that people laughed. This was George W. Bush as president of the United States. It's Joe Biden. But you also have people like Trump. Now, on the economy, Trump knew what he was doing. He wanted a free market economy with all the negatives that go with it, but also the positives of short-term economic growth too. And he put in people, he was a businessman, he put in people he'd known all his life who he could trust, and he got what he wanted. But when it came to national security, Trump was a baby. He put in these generals because he thought, these are generals. They're big, macho guys with lots of medals. And so they must be honest and tell me the truth all the time. And they're great geniuses because I watch all these TV shows and the generals in them are real good, straight up guys. And they shoot from the hip like the Marshal like Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke. So what could go wrong? Well, we know what went wrong. These guys were corrupt and stupid and inept. And Trump actually didn't want to commit to Ukraine, but his own national security establishment, who he had been dumb enough to put into power, undermined him at every point. This was actually treason. They were actually, the deep state was undermining the elected president of the United States, and 2016 was a free and fair election, unlike 2020. You can be thrown into jail now. I've had visits from the FBI, because I didn't even say it publicly, but I worked for an outfit that published articles questioning the veracity of the 2020 results, and that was enough to get me a visit from the FBI in 2020. But if you lie and say the 2016 election was fixed by the Russians, and it wasn't a free and fair election, then you are a hero, then you are approved of. So for telling the truth that 2016 was an honest election, right, you are frozen out of government and power and journalism, right? But for telling the truth again, that there should at least be, I mean, if the 2020 election, I'm not even saying it was fixed, but if it wasn't fixed, why not look at it properly? Why not have an open debate about it? Why not have open transparency? Forrest, what's his name? Tucker Carlson, not Forrest. I'm thinking of the actor Forrest Tucker. Tucker Carlson says we should have a terribly outrageous system for democracy in America. The same one the Canadians do. We should have votes, printed ballots, paper ballots like we used to do, and they should be counted with people on both parties monitoring the count. Now that's low tech. You can't hack it. It's not electronic. And it works. It's worked for hundreds of years. Even worked for the ancient Greeks. So why don't we go back to it now? Why do we have to have all these fancy electronic systems that nobody can understand and that are all owned and made by George Soros and in Canada anyway, outside US control, right? And not subject to American political or democratic oversight? Why are they more democratic than having transparency? We need to keep asking that question because they never answer it. Now, back with Trump, as I said, Trump didn't realize what his own lousy choices as secretaries of defense and national security advisors were sucking him into. My God, he made John Bolton national security advisor, a man who would have declared World War III 40 years ago if he got the chance and still would. A man who is not only dangerous and extremist, but incompetent and stupid at every turn as well. You know, in your dreams, you should dream of being at the same poker table as John Bolton, because he's such an inept jerk and such a fake, macho, insecure idiot. You can clean him out and read him on every play. On every play. And yet Trump made him a national security advisor. And even Trump got rid of him in the end. But that's the answer to your question. Trump personally was sincere in not wanting a confrontation with Russia. But he let himself appoint, and he was surrounded by disastrous people. He was starting to wake up at the very end, but by then it was too late. And they undercut him at every point. So you're right. During the Trump years, there was no change. But what we're seeing now is the Speaker of the House, give the weird way the American political system works, and it works so weirdly that most of our own elected representatives don't understand how it works. Not just because most of them are stupid, though they are, but because it is such a complicated system, and its rules have not been revised since properly since it was created in 1789-91. We have a system that was created before modern technology, before electricity, before radio, broadcasting, television, podcasts, before anything. And we're supposed to assume it's the greatest, most wonderful, most perfect system in the way of the world. One of the reasons democracy is doing so badly around the world is the rest of the world looks at our political system and they laugh. And they're also frightened and they're horrified. We cannot fund our own government for a single year without playing all these absurd, ridiculous, childish games. And it doesn't happen in Canada, doesn't happen anywhere in Europe or East Asia or India. You don't have to look to Russia. It doesn't happen in Argentina or Chile or Mexico. We are the laughing stuff of the world. And we imagine the world must worship us. You're right, you and I have discussed this before. We need to stop telling the rest of the world what to do and bombing other countries and declaring war endlessly on the rest of the world. We need to come back in our own borders. I'm not saying disarm. In fact, I want us to get our borders under control. I want our borders to come to be brought under control, but we're going to need years. We're going to need at least a decade, more likely a lot longer, to get our own house in order, to stop 100,000 of our own young people dying of despair, of fentanyl and other drugs every year, and stop blaming China and Mexico for it. The market is here for it because our own economic and social policies have failed miserably. And our political system is corrupt to the core and incompetent to the core. And why do we declare all these wars when we never win any of them?
But hold on. The wars are never officially declared.
You're right, of course. Silly of me. But of course, there's that. And we believe all these stupid lies. Remember the thing, the old Zen thing, it's supposed to be wise. Does a tree make a noise if it falls in a forest that no one hears? Of course it makes a fucking noise. The sound carries it. There's just nowhere there to hear the noise. So does that mean a war hasn't been declared because we haven't declared it? No, people are dying. We're dropping fucking bombs on them. Of course there's a war going on. Oh, I use a big bad naughty word. Will you let me on with you again? Have I shocked your audience's tender susceptibilities? Have your tender susceptibilities shocked by seeing innocent people, whether it is Israelis children being slaughtered by Hamas, or Gaza children being slaughtered by Israeli bombs, what have you? This happens in war. We should stop declaring wars and start trying to end wars rather than continue them.
And this goes back. I'm glad you got on that, because we transitioned back to what you were talking about with the Hamas.
Of course.
And the Israeli, and the cover, and I on my show, as I've been covering this, I've been asking people for once, get out of your feelings for a second, for 1 second, forget that you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, or whatever, and look at this from all sides, and look at the situation, and that way you can get a better understanding of what is going on. And with that said, I noticed the Western media hypes up anything that a Hamas does, but I was doing a lot of research on the internet, and there was little coverage of the targeted killing of civilians fleeing in a convoy that was designated by the Red Cross and the Red Crescent that were struck as Israel gave them instructions to leave for southern Gaza, and the Israelis targeted the convoy, killing over 50 people. And at the same time, as we talk about the killings of the Israelis, there was also hardly little coverage, and I'm not just talking about Muslims, I'm saying of Christians. Just a few days ago, the Israelis targeted and damaged the third oldest Orthodox churches in the world, I believe, in Gaza, and there was little to no coverage. And one more thing. How is it that the hospitals are being bombarded, and you have the Red Crescent and the Red Cross saying that there are little to no Hamas people there, and the Israeli officials are saying that they're targeting Hamas, and yet the Western press continues to go on the line of whatever the IDF says? That's bias in itself, especially as all of these people are dying, whether they be on one side or the other. I just think that it's such a twisted tilt. And when we look at this situation, everybody always agrees that we have to stop the violence. Everybody. But nobody wants to address the problems that are causing the violence. And for me, I step away and I say, as I've done if you can go back and look at the last 4 programs, and I often pull up this resolution, and I want to pull it up for you, Martin, because this means so much, and yet everybody ignores this because they keep talking about a 2-state solution. They keep talking about the cessation of violence, and they keep talking about the terror that is being caused by Hamas, and they never hardly mention the terror that is being inflicted on Palestinians on a daily basis by the inhumane treatment that is and the incarceration and the killing of teenagers everywhere. And I have to cover it. And it may seem like I'm slanted one way, but what I'm trying to do is put everything in perspective for all those who are watching the thing, so that they can look at both sides and look at this. Because let me put this this resolution up, because this is very important, and I want you to tell me your And we can disagree. As I tell people, it's okay to disagree so long as we're agreeable when we disagree. We don't have to chop each other's head off when we disagree. But I want to bring something up on the screen here for you. And it should be on the screen, right? And I'm going to highlight. Hold on. Let me make it a little bit bigger. 125.
Oh, yes. The famous Resolution 242.
Okay. Now, right here, let me read the first part, because everything is contingent upon this, and everybody continues to say international law when the United States, the UK, France, China, and Russia had to agree for this to become a binding resolution through the Security Council. So on here, it says the Security Council. It says expressing and continuing concern with the grave situation in the Middle East. So right here, the situation did not just get grave when the situation exploded in occupied Palestine and Israel on October 7th. They knew it in 67 and before that things were grave. Now listen to what it says: emphasizing, meaning drawing attention to, emphasizing the inadmissibility, meaning the illegality of the acquisition of territory by war, and the need to work for a just and lasting peace in which every state in the area can live in security. Once again, it uses the word emphasizing. Emphasizing meaning drawing attention to, highlighting. Further, that all member states, in their acceptance of the Charter of the United Nations, have undertaken a commitment to act in accordance with Article 2 of the Charter. And listen to what this says right here. Because if we continue to ignore this, there will be no settlement. There will only be blame. One must, if you have a law and you continue to ignore the law, what good is the law for? And how can you say you're just if you only hold one side accountable to the very law that is supposed to be inviolable and it's supposed to be representative of an unbiased global system? So it says this. Number one, affirms that the fulfillment of charter principles requires the establishment of a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, which should include the application of both the following principles. Now, here we have in this paragraph, it tells us the way that they think is the path for peace, and a lasting, not just a peace, but a lasting peace. It says, number one, withdrawal of Israel armed forces from territories occupied in recent conflict. If we just stop right there at number one, they didn't place that at number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. They placed it as number one, and they emphasized it twice. That means that there was more weight given to this right here than everything else in the resolution. So when we look at this resolution and we go back to when this resolution was formulated, thought over, discussed, negotiated on, then passed as an international binding resolution, which means that both are obliged to adhere to this because it is international law. How is it that everybody leaves out the part that Israel has not removed its forces from the Sheba Farms, from the Golan Heights, from the Gaza Strip, from the West Bank, or from the Negev deserts? Because remember, at this time when this was formulated, these are territory. Some of these territories were under complete occupation of Israel, and they have yet to return these territories. Even when we look at the Gaza situation, when most outlets says that Gaza is under the leadership and rule of Hamas, that is not right. That is an embellishment or a play on things, because Israel controls the entire border strip of Gaza, even going into the Sinai Peninsula, and it controls the waterways. So what you have is Gaza being a open air prison, and Israel refuses to completely remove its troops from Gaza, from the West Bank, from the Negev Desert, from the Sheba Farms, and from the Golan Heights. If this is the case, in the resolution states that without that you cannot have lasting peace, then whose fault is it that the Middle East is blowing up? because it gives you, number one, the thing that they emphasize twice, the main cause of the resolution. There must be a withdrawal of Israeli forces from territories occupied in recent conflict. And then when you go back up to the beginning of the resolution, this is what it says. Emphasizing the inadmissibility, which means the illegality of the acquisition of territory by war. That means that the occupation of these territories are illegal. They have been declared illegal since 1967, and nobody addresses that. Why?
The answer is simply that the Resolution 242 really is meaningless shit.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Every country in the world establishes itself ultimately by war, but there are other issues here. Israel is a tiny country, and you can, if you're Liechtenstein or Belgium, you can survive as a tiny country. And even Belgium keeps getting invaded by Germany much more often than they would like. And before that, they were invaded for 100 years by Belgium. But right now, if you look at Hamas, Hamas runs Gaza. Hamas has run Gaza for 17 years. Hamas is genocidal. There's no secret about this. They don't deny it. They're proud of it. It is in their charter. Hamas says not just if you see an Israeli, kill him. It says if you see a practicing Jew, or a Jew anywhere, ethnic Jew, doesn't matter if they practice or not, kill them. Now, that's not a Muslim teaching. The great religion of Islam has never taught that, but Hamas teaches that. Hamas, it goes even further than the Nazis. They're franker than the Nazis. They're openly genocidal. And Israel, of course, doesn't control the border area with Gaza. If they did, they wouldn't be burying 1,400 of their own civilians, including hundreds of women, elderly people, and most of all, beheaded children. And Hamas did not cover this up or deny it. They're proud of beheading young children. Now, if they're proud of beheading 40 children, I guarantee you they'll be proud of beheading hundreds of thousands of children, whether they are Muslim or Christian or Israeli, or Israeli Christian or Israeli Muslim. Won't make any difference to them. Hamas will be proud of that too. And that has to be confronted. So this is the security situation that the Israelis face. Now, of course, Netanyahu thought he had a solution to Gaza. He thought he could, quote unquote, tame Gaza and, quote unquote, in his own terms, civilize them, but according to his own terms, while still treating the people there like shit. And as you rightly point out, Rashid, when the Israelis respond with bombings, they've historically killed a lot more people than they've already suffered before. But there's another key and very dangerous point here, which will ultimately bring in Syria and Iran and Russia, and it is this. Why did Hamas not just behead Israeli children, but stick it on YouTube, stick it on the internet, and it's all there? All the beheadings and the tortures are there. Why did they put them there? Because they want the Israeli army to go charging in like idiots into Gaza. And once the Israeli army is fully committed in Gaza, fighting the kind of defensive war pinned down with Hamas prepared for it, bleeding them dry, then Iran and Syria and Hezbollah will open up the northern front, and that will be real genocide, the end of Israel. They're not just looking at killing 40 or 50 Israeli kids and beheading them. They're looking at slaughtering 6 or 7 million Jews and another 2 or 3 million Palestinian Christians and Muslims as well, if they get in the way in the territories, or Israeli Arabs. They don't. I mean, when you're dealing with Nazis or communists or Hamas, this is the reality of what you're dealing with. Okay. And the United States, like Israel, is run by idiots, and they're brutal idiots. They kill much more civilians than they do the bad guys that they're after. But above all else, we know they're incompetent. And it's not just Netanyahu who's incompetent. The Israeli public is now voting for General Gantz, the former chief of staff, the former defense minister. They prefer him as prime minister. Well, maybe he'd be better. Maybe. But he went around Gaza just a year ago and said he was satisfied with the wonderful electronic fence and security arrangements that the Israelis have. Now, all these electronic fences may be great news for Rafael Industries in Israel, Aircraft Industries in Israel, or for Lockheed Martin and for Northrop Grumman and Boeing in America. There's only one problem, of course. None of them work, ever. And the Viet Cong taught us this in Vietnam nearly 60 years ago. McNamara, one of the most stupid and worst secretaries of defense and a repulsive human being, a man almost as stupid as Donald Rumsfeld, who was Lyndon Johnson's and Kennedy's choice as a genius Secretary of Defense in the Vietnam War, had a wonderful solution. He approved the building of an electronic high-tech fence against the Viet Cong to stop them infiltrating into South Vietnam from across the border in Laos and Cambodia. And what did the Viet Cong do? Did they go cap in hand to Russia or to China and say, oh, help us, please. The Americans have just spent $10 billion building a super fence electronic system to stop us coming in. Please spend another $100 billion to neutralize that defense. No, they did not. They sent their soldiers over the border and they peed on those electronic sensors. They pissed on them, and the water and the nitrates in the human not excretion, when you pee, whatever you call it, right? In the human piss, they short-circuited all those hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sensors in every mile of sensor. So human ingenuity and flexibility trumps electronic, robotic, AI, super fancy defenses every time. And this is another reason we shouldn't be spending hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars on these systems that never work and can never be brought to work. We're chasing lies. We're chasing pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. What happened to those poor Israeli kids should be a wake-up call for the Israelis, but it's also a wake-up call for NATO and the United States.
Hey, before we get to NATO,
our insane, stupid policies, building trillions of dollars on weapon systems that do not work.
Before we get to NATO, I want to double back on something that you were saying.
Sure.
About I've done research and I called a few connections that I have. And they
simply not. By the way, somebody is saying literally zero evidence of Hamas harming children. Yeah. You're a Nazi and you're mad and you're stupid and it's there. No, of course there's that. And of course Palestinian children are dying too. But what you are, sir, or madam, or whoever wrote this, you're a genocidal Nazi bastard yourself.
Now I have to say
you're going to die screaming eventually when the bombs drop on you and you have no escape from it. But this is not you I'm talking to, Rashid, but this thing here. And the response that comes in, no, the evidence of Hamas not just harming children but beheading them is perfectly real. And you have to be a volunteer to operate an Auschwitz gas chamber to deny it. And obviously you are. You have all the qualifications.
Now, since we talk about Nazis, and we refer to Nazis, why isn't Israel getting credit for working with Nazis by helping behind closed doors with the Nazis in Ukraine, because they have helped to train and arm the Nazis that are fighting against the Russians in Ukraine? And we can make the connection between Palestinian Hamas and Nazis, but we cannot acknowledge that Israel is actually in real time working with Nazis in Ukraine, because the regime in Ukraine are mostly Nazis working there. But I want to go back to something.
No, I have to come in there.
Hold on one second.
Nazis are certainly active in Ukraine. I've been in the foremost of it is the United States.
Hold on 1 second. I got to finish my thought because I didn't get a chance to talk back with you. I have to finish it 1 second. Hold on.
Father visited Auschwitz and approved of the genocide going on there at the time.
Hold on. I'll let you get your time. I just want to say, now let's go back to something. I talked to specific people who are in the know about some of the stuff that you mentioned. These were intelligence people. Some of them have been on my show, and they say, with MZ, they say they agree with some of the stuff that MZ says about some of the videos, but I don't want to go there with the videos, because I see you and him have a heated discussion and we'll go past that, but we'll go to something. you say that Israel does not control the borders of Gaza, and that's not correct. Oh, and by the way, I want to go back to before that when you said that that Hamas calls for the destruction of Israel, but we forget that there have been even Bibi Netanyahu has called for the destruction of Palestine, and not only that, just a few days ago there were multiple Israeli ministers calling for the complete annihilation and eradication of Gaza and the West Bank and all of Palestine. Now, saying that, well, both sides can hurl these things at each other for the longest. This is what I'm saying. But when we do that, we get away from the main thing, because most people say that this is an existential threat to the existence of Israel. And I agree that Israel has an existential threat. But again, we cannot ignore history. Prior to 1947, there was no Israel. There was a Palestine. So Palestine was removed because of Israel. And the people, and this is non-debatable. This is non-argumentative. This is historical facts, that there was a Palestine and there was no Israel. And we say that the Jews were tormented in the Nazi death chambers. And I asked the question to most people, where did that take place and where were the death chambers? And they'll say this was in Auschwitz, this was in Germany. And then I say, okay, we have an understanding. And I want the Jews to have a homeland, but not at the expense of the Palestinians that were there. How, if Germany did the killing and the gassing, and why didn't Germany appropriate territory as reparation for those who suffered from that? And nobody can say that. All they go back is to a religious dogma that Israel right is in Palestine, and that is not right. That is not right, because both sides will argue over that. So I put religious stuff out of the way, and I go to facts, historical facts. Prior to 1947, 48, there was no existing state called Israel. There was
no
state,
but there was a Palestine, and Palestine was Jewish. All the people who called themselves Palestinians were Jews. Yes, they were. All the Arabs who lived and who moved into Palestine in the 1920s called themselves Arabs. The term Palestinian was only started to be used by the Arabs, refugees from the war in Israel in the camps in the and in the 1960s, the Palestine Liberation Organization was set up in 1964. No, I'm going off now. There is no point in continuing this. This is not a dialogue, sir. And your facts are not facts. Goodbye.
No. Oh, goodbye, sir. Goodbye. Thank you. He left the chat because of facts. This is crazy. This is what I'm saying. When you have this skewed logic, and I knew this would be heated. But when you have these skewed facts, and MZ said something that was absolutely true. There's literally zero evidence of Hamas harming children. Element zero. I talked to the people. You guys know the guests that I have on here. Listen, if what you're saying is right and I'm wrong, I'm man enough to admit it, and I'm man enough to calm down. But don't talk over me, not to let me get a word edgewise in my own platform. That's not how things go. And so every time I make a point, I'm talked over, but I let you talk 11, 13, 15 minutes at a time. And I only get 2 minutes, and then I get talked over in trouble. That's not how things go. And I know this stuff touches the issues, especially when you have a skewed view. You have a skewed view. So what I did in everything, when I pointed out the resolution, what did he say to me? It doesn't mean anything. The very law that everybody is screaming about, because it condemns what is going on and it puts the brunt of the violence on the back of Israel, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. Why is that? As long as we can hurl insults and innuendo at each other that is not backed up by facts, right? That means everything. But when I ask you, when I pull up the resolution itself, read you the resolution and what it says. because it's not palatable to your perception, it no longer is viable. And it was a curse word used. It doesn't mean it. I'm not going to say the curse word. He says that the UN law that everybody is talking about, everybody, Hamas is in violation of UN resolution. Palestine is in violation of UN resolution. Okay, let's look at the UN resolution. And when I ask just simple questions, hey, listen, I understand what you're saying. I'm going to let you talk. You talk. Now, when you're done, now I want to revisit what you said. And then I want you to understand that what you're saying is not true because we have historical proof. What was the thing that really made him go off? It wasn't. It was because I asked a historical fact that could not be refuted by religion. And what was the fact? The fact was this. Everybody continues to say that Israel has the right to exist. Israel is at a stage where it's suffering an existential threat. Okay, we all agree to that. I give you all of that. But now let us look at the reality of the situation. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cut anybody off. I didn't do anything disrespectful. I didn't do any of that. All I used was logic, common sense, and history. What was that land called prior to 1947? Okay, hold on one second. I guess nobody wants me to talk about this. They're knocking me off there. I wasn't trying to insult him. I wasn't, but I'm saying when we're very educated or when we're very enlightened people, or when we're trying to have discourse, we're gonna agree and we're gonna disagree. But the thing I often say is when we disagree, let us be agreeable to disagree. That's the sign of an enlightened person, right? Not calling names or anything, but I want you to look at this, okay? Just give me 1 second, okay? All right. We'll see this. And we'll see if what I said is the truth, and we'll see if what he said is the truth, okay? And we'll do this according to what is recognized in historical records, okay? Okay? This is the best way to do this without insulting anybody, without talking down on anybody, but to show respect, not for just the person at hand, but to show respect for the victims and those who are losing their lives, and to show respect, the utmost respect for historical truth. Okay? So now, we'll do this. Give me a second. And I'm going to bring this up to you, and we'll see if what I'm saying is the truth or what I'm saying is not the truth. Okay? All right. Give me 1 second. Because I don't like to just guess. When we're talking with each other, especially on matters of the heart. See, I know we're dealing with matters of the heart, and I hope Mr. Sieff will come back. And if not, life goes on. But if he comes back, that's great, and we can talk on other issues, because I did not insult him. I did not say anything out of pocket. I only corrected the falsehood, and I told the truth. Everything that I said can be validated. I pull up the truth, and like I'm about to pull it up right now. Okay, so give me a second. Do you see that? I'm getting ready to enlarge that. Okay, so that we can understand what actually is going on. 150. Yeah, let's see if 150 will work on the screen. 150. What you see here is historical Palestine over the years. And from my screen, it's left to right. And so that means from your screen, it'll be, let's see, let me see if I can pull it up on my phone real quick. So it should still be left to right to yours too. Okay, if you're looking at these maps, these are 6 maps, and it shows you the destruction of Palestine through the years. Okay, this is not the destruction of Israel. This is the destruction of Palestine for the making of Israel. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if Israel has the right to exist, what about the people that they are removing for them to exist? That's what I'm asking. If they, as Mr. Sieff says, they suffered in Auschwitz in the gas chamber, I agree with you. And where is Auschwitz at? It's in Germany. So if they suffered there under the brutal treatment of the Germans, why didn't the Germans allocate land for them instead of imposing them on an entire people and removing that people that is indigenous to that land? Those are the questions that I'm asking. Okay? This is not something that's on the fringe of thinking. This is not something that's out of common sense. These are honest questions backed by history. Nobody has the cojones or the testicular fortitude to say these things. Now, you got the right one now, baby. But let's look at this. From left to right on my screen and on your screen. The yellow there is Palestine. Not Israel, Palestine. And if you go to the next map, okay, the next one over. So we're going to do this. This is Palestine, the all yellow map of Palestine. It's from 1917. All right. This was before the Balfour Declaration. You know what that is? That's when these elites got together and said that they're going to map out. They don't care what it's going to take. They're going to go to the Middle East and they're going to take that land and make it into a land for Israel. The Balfour Declaration. This is true. Google the Balfour Declaration. If you think I'm lying, Google it and read it. So now the next map is 1946. This is after some of the people arrived in Palestine. Okay, they never called this Arab, did it? Mr. Sieff said they were just called Arabs, right? So if they were just called Arabs and that was their homeland, what would the country be called? Arabia or Arab land. But according to the map, it says Palestine. So if they are residing in a land called Palestine, what are they by birth? Palestinians, right? Right? People from Palestine. People of Palestine. Is that not right? Now let's go to the third map. After accepting more Khazars, I want you to understand what I'm talking about. These are Europeans. These are not, this is what most people don't understand. The people who have settled there and started calling themselves Jews are not, they are converted Jews. They are not Jews as one would think of this. These are Caucasians from the area in the Caucasus, by what they're fighting over right now called Ukraine and that surrounding area. If you think I'm lying, go Google this. I'm not saying anything that is not factual. And I'll read the comments in the chat in just a minute. Right now, I'm staying and focused on this, okay? And I apologize, everybody, if I don't get to you at this moment, okay? Now, in 1947, when more of the people made their way from Germany and the Caucasus and Russia, because do you know a huge portion of Israel is Russian? Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know a large part is from Ukraine? And that area, what areas? The Khazari, the kingdom of Khazari land. I'm not making this up. They are not Jews genetically. They are Jews through conversion. You understand? And then they want to tell everybody else who is a Jew and not a Jew. And so when you see them start coming there, and the Palestinians start allowing them in there, the land starts swiftly changing from yellow to green. 1947. That's the third map. Right? Now look at that map there. And look at the map prior to that from 1946. 1 year before, it was almost all yellow. 1 year after, right? Look at it. It is now the majority green. Okay? So Israel must exist, but at the expense of the people who are from that land. This is what I'm getting at. And most people cannot stomach that. I'm not anti-Semitic. Hell, I'm black. I cannot be anti-Semitic. Okay? So I don't want any of you to push that down on me, because that's not going to fly with me. Because I'll take you through a history lesson and I'll make you sit down. So you're not going to call me anti-Semitic. I am pro-truth. Listen, if this condemned my brother, then guess what I would do? I would say, hey, you know what? That's my brother and I bag him, but he was dead wrong. He was dead wrong. He could be white as snow or black as an ace of spades. Truth is truth regardless. Okay? Now, and I shout out to my boy Ken Chow's in the building. I was meaning to say that earlier. Musa A is in the building. So let's go here. We see it goes from predominantly yellow, which is Palestinian, to predominantly green, which is the Khazaris coming there and then rebranding themselves as Jews. That's history. For everybody who's listening, show me where I am lying. Go to something in history and prove to me that I'm lying. Prove to my audience that I'm lying. I am not going on what the mainstream media is saying. I'm not going on I'm going on pro-truth, pro-history. And if you cannot disprove me, shut up, take a seat, and listen. Okay? Now look more. And this is the problem. We get caught up in this religious thing, this religious fervor. Right? If the Palestinians was wrong, I don't care if they were Muslim on top of Muslim. Guess what I'll do? I'll condemn their wrongness. But in this situation, yeah, they're wrong. But they're wrong in certain acts, not in what they're doing. They're lashing out as a last ditch to try to get the world's attention and say, hey, we exist, we matter. This was our land. All right? We're being killed, we're being locked up, we're being beaten, brutalized, all of this stuff, and it gets swiped up under the rug. You see nobody, when I brought up the third oldest Christian Orthodox church or whatever, being bombed purposely by Israel, there was no response. Because it condemned Israel and it put them in a light that it wasn't supposed to be in. I am not anti-Jew, I'm anti-Zionist. Because this thing is so fascist, it's outright stunning. Okay? If we look at history, these maps give you the understanding of how Israel was founded. And remember, in Israel founding, it was a mass genocide committed. And then a mass deportation. All of these were crimes against humanity and war crimes. All of them, not one of them was prosecuted or persecuted. Not one. Okay? And they have been celebrated as the establishment of a Jewish state. But in the establishment of the Jewish state, there was an eradication of a Palestinian state. So how is it that one must exist and the other must shut up and take what is given to them, or else be wiped off the face of the planet? This is what I'm saying. How is that? How is that there's no mention of them purposely bombing a humanitarian convoy with women and children, and after giving them the coordinates and the routes to go from northern Gaza to southern Gaza, killing over 50 children and women? And then in the following few days, they bombed the hospital, over 200 hospitals. And we want to fixate on one hospital. But the media hasn't said a word about this. How is that just? How is that being a Christian? Would Jesus do that? Would Jesus do that? And since you so-called Bible thumpers are so pro this and pro that, go in your Bible and open it up and tell me where Jesus was born. Go in your Bible and tell me that. Because I could have sworn it said he was Jesus of Palestine. I could have sworn that he was a Palestinian, that he was born in Palestine. But today there is no more Palestine. Why? Because Palestine is almost completely eradicated on the policies of extreme Zionist fascists. And nobody wants to talk about it because it gets them banned, censored, put out of the search engine, demonized, ostracized. Man, I give two flips about that. I'm a grown man. I've been standing on my own for a long time. And by the grace of God, I will continue to do so. You understand me? So let's look again. Let's go to the fourth. Look at the third map. Then go to the fourth. Now let's go to the fifth. Each map gets more and more dire for Palestine. And then we go to the present day, and there's only little speckles of Palestine left. Now, Mr. Sieff says that Israel does not control the Gaza Strip. Who has border patrol on the Sinai Peninsula that borders up against Gaza? Tell me that. Google it and tell me. Google it and tell me. Huh? You can go on through. Go around the back. Go around the back or whatever and go through. Anyway, please be careful right there with that. I'm talking to my daughter. She has to come and get do something right there. But who has border patrols there? So the southern border of Gaza that goes into the Sinai is controlled by Israeli IDF forces. You think I'm lying? Hold on one second. Hold on one second, everybody. Gaza. Border guarded. Hold on one second, everybody. By IDF. Hold on one second. Now, if I'm lying, I'm flying, okay? All right. I'm pulling it up. Now, here we go. Let me pull this up to the screen. All right. You guys give me a second. Let me take this map off the screen for a second. All right. Let me stop this, stop that screen. Let's go to something. And we're going to see. So he said it's not showing that Israel does not control the borders of Gaza. Now, what I'm about to put on your screen is a British newspaper, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, and this is the headline of the article, and you can see who's roaming the border. Okay, all right. I told you I deal with facts, not emotions. This is why you cannot beat me. What does that article say right there? Talk to me. Israel's military says it fully controls communities on Gaza border. Not partially, not somewhat, not a little bit, but fully, right? But fully. You see that? Now, the word fully, according to the dictionary, means completely or entirely, to the furthest extent, completely, entirely, wholly, totally, thoroughly, quite, utterly. Okay? That's what it says right there. Did Rashid write this for the BBC? Nope. Did Rashid post that article or post those pictures for the BBC? Nope. I'm just reporting facts. So when the media says that Hamas controls Gaza, they are outright lying and embellishing the truth. Hamas has some pull over the people, but the borders are controlled by Israel, and everybody honestly knows that. Everybody. Let me pull up something. Let me show you something. If you think I'm lying, watch. Now I'm doing this on the spur of the moment now. Okay, this is a Jewish paper. Okay, I'm going to put this to let you know that I'm not making this stuff up. Let me stop this. Now I'm doing this right on the spot, right? So how can I be anti this or anti that? I'm pulling this stuff up, just keywords. To pull this up, let me go back to keyword. What did I put up for a keyword for that? I put in Gaza Sinai border guarded by IDF soldiers, and a whole host of stuff came up. Right now, let's go here. Stop screen. Let's present this. Let's bring something up. I'm not going to put a picture up. I'm going to put up the articles. Okay. You see this? Let me magnify it for you so you can see it a little bit better. 175%. Let's see if you can see it a little bit better. Go back to my screen. Yes. This is what I put in. This Palestinians not allowed to fish in Gaza water. Okay. Look at the articles. Look at the first published. This is a B. I can't pronounce it because it's Hebrew. It says, plunge into despair how Israel's policy affects Gazans. And right down there it says September 9th, 2020. On August 16th, 2020, Israel banned access to the Gaza Sea. And on the 2nd September 2020, reopened the fishing zones to 15 nautical miles. So if Israel closed and opened, how the hell does the Palestinian control it? I'm asking. If Israel can open and close the border in the communities surrounding Gaza, and they can open and close the Gaza Sinai border, and then they can open and close the fishing borders off the coast of Gaza, the territorial waters of Gaza, how is Hamas in control of the borders of Gaza? Am I making this up? Look at the article below it by Al Monitor. Oh, I think, well, let me see. I can't see that part real quick, so I might be mispronouncing. Yeah, Al Monitor. Plenty of fish in Gaza Sea, but not for Palestinians. See? Why? Because Israel controls the waters. You see that? So you have an open air prison where they control the borders around Gaza. Then they control the Gazan waters. How is Hamas in control of Gaza? That's what I'm asking. Holly Horn says today they killed the family of an Al Jazeera journalist. They killed some journalists the other day too. Let's see. Serious Beer says, it's for sure frustrating for me too, Rashid. You got it, brother. That's what I'm saying. All I'm asking is questions. I'm reading and stuff. Listen, what I'm doing to you all, we have Muslims, we have Christians, we have Jews, We probably have Hindus. We have other Buddhists. We have all types of people listening to the show. And what I'm trying to do is foment a area where dialogue can happen without people getting so offended. And questions can be asked, serious questions. Because listen, the only way that you can get to a solution, you got to go through the tough problems and tough situation of asking the tough questions. You've got to be man and woman enough to withstand the blowback of asking these questions, because most people can't stomach it, because it challenges their perception and their views. And if you challenge a person's perception and views, especially something that is dearly held, even when it's not logical or historically backed, you can cause them to be an enemy. Not willingly, but that's what happens sometimes. You can go from friends to enemies. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put this stuff out there so everybody can be bold enough to ask the questions and not run from it. Huh? So Ken Charles says, what he put something up, he says, what's the solution in your opinion? My opinion, you want me to be politically correct, or you want me to just tell you the truth? All right. I'll put it like this, Ken. I'll let you answer your question. If I came into your house, say for instance, you have about 5 daughters, 3 sons, and a wife, and I came into your house, and you allowed me to come into your house. You was gracious towards me and my family. We were fleeing prosecution and abusiveness and all of that stuff. And before you know it, we set up camp in your house with no desire to leave, but with a strong desire to eventually take ownership of your house. Would you allow me and my family to continue staying there? I'm asking you this. So put your answer in the chat, Ken, and I'll see it real quick. They're green pill people. Put your answer in the chat, Ken. I'm not. LOL. Would you allow me, Ken? Seriously? No. Come on, man. No, Ken, seriously. I'm asking you. Because listen, I am not advocating. Well, if the Palestinians and the Israelis agree to a 2-state solution, then hey, boom. Then it's all good. I'm not. Listen, that doesn't affect me. I'm not from there. You understand? But you asked me my honest opinion, and I won't lie to you just for clicks. I can't do that. What I do is pose to you, what would be your reaction if I'm fleeing this city and you graciously take me in, and then in a couple months you realize, or a couple years you realize that I have no intentions of leaving your home, building my own home, and I'm using your graciousness and your benevolence to benefit me, and then I have plans to eventually usurp you in your own home and take ownership of it. I mean, would you allow me to stay there? I'm asking you this. We have problems. What problems? What problems? What problems? Could you specify? Could you specify? Because I like dialogue with everybody. And listen, one thing about me is this. I am a man with all kind of faults and frailties and shortcomings. And I am one of the first ones, if you can point out to me where my logic is not rational, if you can point out to where I've made a mistake, guess what? I invite constructive criticism and correction, because through that you grow as a person. You understand? So I'm not saying I'm the be all and know everything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking you a honest question about if someone was in your house and had intentions on taking your house, would you still allow them to stay there? And you've yet to answer me, my man. I'm asking. You saying what can we do? First of all, let me highlight this real quick. Serious Business says, nope, great analogy. That's all. I try to give you the analogies that hit home to you. Okay. Now Ken says this. I'm saying, what can we do now, presently? First of all, we have to acknowledge that. Before we answer that, let's go back and let you answer what I asked you. Then I'll gladly answer this. It's a yes or no question on what I asked you before, and then I'll gladly answer that. I don't mind engaging with you. I love this. Okay. So before we go to this question, let me take this off the screen and wait for your answer for the question that I asked you, and I will graciously answer that. Okay, real. So give me the answer. Would you, and be honest about it, would you allow that? This is not a setup question or anything. It is a yes or no question. You say it's not a yes, it is. Most people get firearms to protect their household from invasion, right? Because they feel that they worked hard to get that property and maintain their property, and they're willing to fight and die to secure their family and their property, right? That's what most people do. They don't allow people to just come in, even if it be family members. When they tell them to get out, if that family member refuses to, they're willing to fight and die to get them out of that house because they have sweat and bled for that property and for their family, right? And what I'm saying to you, it is a yes or no answer. This is not a trick question. This is an honest question, and most people can't deal with honesty. If I put it like this, since you won't answer the question, I'll answer the question. If someone came into my home, if I allow people to come in my home and I find out they have ulterior motives, right? As a matter of fact, my wife and I went through that years ago, decades ago, before the birth of my 19-year-old, and we invited people who were stranded in the city to stay with us for a little bit, and we would help them get on their feet. And what they were doing is making plans to not just bring us down, but bring us down financially, and then almost as if they wanted to take over our lives. And that wasn't happening. So immediately I nipped that in the bud, because we can't be friends. We can't communicate. We can't cohabitate when I find out that I'm trying to help you and you're doing this to me. Any and everybody in this chat knows what I'm talking about. There's no way that you can cohabitate or deal with a person on the same basis after learning those things. And Ken, you know it too. You know it too, man. You may be trying to like dance around that. It's in the front on the stereo. Okay, I saw it up there earlier. But in reality, I'm not anti-Israel. You asked me these things, and I'm honestly answering you without any filter, without anything. If this was me, and I have no dog in the race, no horse in the race, if this was me, there would be much on my mind to say that we cannot do this. You got to give me back what I earned. You got to give me back what's mine. You got to, or we will forever have problems. You have to give it back to me. This is mine. This is not yours for the taking. This is mine. And no, I'm not saying that you don't have a right to exist. I'm saying that you don't have a right to exist in my house where I own this property. You understand? There's a big difference. So now, but when we're looking at the situation where you said, what can you said, I'm saying, what can we do now presently? Okay. Now, since I answered the other part honestly with you, now I'm going to answer this part with you honestly. If there are grown men and women in the halls of power, maybe they can etch out something that's acceptable to both sides. I'm not against that. But you asked me my opinion, and my opinion may be something different from what's going on over there. I have no vested interest in that. Okay? My only vested interest in that is to see justice be done. Because an injustice to one is an injustice to everybody. You understand? You say you don't understand. Okay, make me understand your question. What's up, CC? What's up, CC? Ken, if you want to, I'll send you the link and you can get on, you can jump on live and explain it to me. If not, write it in the chat. I'm not, listen, and Ken, I want you to understand something. I am not trying to bully you. I'm not trying to embarrass you, none of that. I'm trying to understand. This is why I'm trying to get dialogue between everybody. That's the only way to formulate a coherent policy, is to talk back and forth to each other. We're not going to always agree on everything, but if we can talk to each other, at least we can make headways. So you say, I don't understand your question, so I'm asking you, make me understand it. Put it up there. Make me understand it. Okay? And I'll give you my honest opinion. If you ask me, Ken, because you're my guy now, you know it. Give you the link. Okay, good. I'll give you the link. Copy. All right, Ken. This is for Ken only right here in the chat. Okay? There you go, Ken. It's in the chat now. That is for Ken on, and see, this is what I'm saying. You see how we can talk to each other without calling each other names and stuff, and really trying. And I invited him to come on, and he's going to come on because he said that I'm not understanding this question, and I said, okay, maybe I'm not understanding what you're saying. So come on and make me understand. And he said, okay, just send me the link. I sent him the link. This is what mature, rational people do. Instead of calling each other names and hanging up the phone on each other and running from this stuff, that's not how things are done if you want results. Yeah. No, you can jump on, buddy. You can jump on. You can jump on through a phone, a laptop, whatever. You know, and I'm not a person that's a tech guy, so I know that you can jump on through your phone, your laptop, your home computer, or something like that. It doesn't matter. All right. So yeah, you're very welcome to come on, my guy, and explain to us what you're talking about. You're very welcome to. And as soon as you get in the booth, I'll let the people know that you're in the booth. I'm not going to hide you. I'm going to let you speak your truth. Okay, you got my word on that. Joel says, Joe Biden phrase, come on, man. Serious Beer says, no, Ken, just hit that link and jump up. Yeah, just hit that link. You'll be on there. Just hit the link. It'll bring you right up in the booth, and then I'll put you on the screen, and you can explain to me what you're talking about. Okay? And it wouldn't take you long to do it. Just hit it. I'm waiting on it. I'm sitting right here. And I hate Martin, and I disagreed on that, but as I said, I didn't want to hold on one second. My sinuses are bothering me. Hold on. There's Ken in the booth right now. I'm gonna bring Ken on right immediately. Ken, you're in the booth, man. How's it going with you and your family today, man?
I'm hanging in there, Rashid.
I hope that you guys stay blessed, and I hope that you guys be prosperous, man. Could you explain to me what were you talking about? Because you said I didn't understand your question.
Well, you're asking me a question. If you let someone in the home, allow someone to come in your home, correct?
Right.
Well, back then, Palestine didn't have an option, did they? They didn't allow them to come in their home. They were more like forced,
right,
in a way, right?
Right.
So if I was forced, then what can I do back then? You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. I got you.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're asking me the question, but it's not the same as speaking about it.
Yeah. I got you. Man, see, this is what I'm saying. You see how this communication is everything, everybody. This is what I'm saying to you. Man got on, he just said, see, what I'm saying is, okay, Ken, you're right. Now, I was going to get to this part right here, but I'm glad you brought this up because it brought it back to the forefront of my mind. Everybody who is talking about the Palestinian and the Israeli issue must realize that Palestine was a protectorate under Britain, and the British had more say than anybody. The British, the United States, and France had made these moves. So if you're talking about after these moves were made by the colonial powers, what would I do? Then I'll understand. Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to say, and then I'll address it. I'll click you
No,
out.
no. But for me, it's more like I could speak better. I'm not with typing. I'm not good at. But
Me
you
neither.
want
Me
to
neither.
you know, I can hop on here and speak. I don't mind speaking. I'm not afraid to share my what do you call it? Share my views.
I'm glad. I'm
You
glad.
know, and that's why when I see a brother like you out there doing it, hey, I'm supporting it. And, I try to see everybody's point of view,
Yeah.
not just from the CNN media,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
Western media.
Yeah.
We all know it's BS, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before I let you off here, let me see if I can answer it the way now, because it was forced upon the Palestinians. Maybe I don't know their thought. Like I said, I have no horse in the race, but common sense would tell me that I don't want the same people who took part in the destruction of my land to be the brokers of the peace. And so before we can find a way out of it, we got to find honest brokers. In America, France, and Britain cannot be one. They cannot. They
No,
show it to you in the news. They show it to you every day. And while they're talking about, think about this: Joe Biden negotiated for humanitarian trucks to come in. About 10 to 20 humanitarian trucks came into Gaza, while the United States was unloading hundreds of tons of military equipment, bombs, and armored transportation to the Israelis. How is that a fair and balanced trade-off? So
so
I would
that
want them to negotiate. There would have to be a China and some other people, and we would have, if we're going to say international law is for everybody, then that would have to be the basis of the negotiated settlement, or else everybody need to just chunk the international law in the garbage can.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. What is the solution? You either
See,
have it this way or that way. That's what I'm saying. There's
see,
no ifs and this and that. Okay, we come to presently. What can we do now?
yeah,
The West been having it for 70 years now,
yeah,
and they didn't fix the mess. Not only didn't fix it, they increased it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So my question is, how do we go about now? How do we go about now? That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Uh,
You can't, and
yeah.
the only well, okay, we agreed to give some land to Israel, and a part being Palestine, correct?
Mhm.
So that's two states.
Yeah.
If there's two states, okay, where do we draw the line right now?
Right, right,
That's all
right.
I'm saying. Where do we draw the line?
Hmm.
You know, we have to forgive the past to move on,
Right.
right? But if the West keep on hanging on to it and not letting go, then you know what? Everybody's the whole global South is standing with Palestine.
I want you to, what you said goes hand in hand with this resolution. Do you mind if I bring this resolution back up on the screen for 1 minute? Because I want you to
Oh
see
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All
No
right.
worries.
I want you to see something real quick because it goes hand in hand with what you just said. And this is the point that I was trying to get across to everybody. Because you said, where does it go now? I see right here. Okay. Um, on this resolution here, if one were to look up um, where it says in the first couple paragraphs, listen what it says. Expressing its continuing concern with the grave situation in the Middle East, emphasizing the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by war, and listen to this, and the need to work for a just and lasting peace in which every state in the area can live in security. Now, first of all, they're saying that they need to put this resolution out as a guiding light so that they can try to come up with some kind of lasting peace, right? for everybody, not just for one, but for everybody. Now listen to what it goes on and says, because I think a lot of people miss this because the people don't know about this. It goes further and says, emphasizing further that all member states, not most, not some, but it says all, encompassing every nation, including Israel, in their acceptance of the Charter of the UN, United Nations, have undertaken a commitment, right? That's a promise. That's an act that's binding in accordance with Article 2 of the Charter. What is Article 2 of the Charter? Number one, affirms that the fulfillment of Charter principles requires the establishment of a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, which should include the application of both the following principles. Listen to these principles, because this goes to the heart of what you just said.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We could have all these principles, everything typed up. At the end, who's controlling it?
Right. But what I'm saying is, you said, how do we move forward?
Yeah.
The way we move forward, you got to first visit the past.
No, yeah.
I didn't say stand on the past. I say visit it. You got to see it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You got whenever you're doing something, you got to look around, do your due diligence. Like whenever you see a scientist and the scientist wants to find out and make a breakthrough, you know what that scientist does? That scientist goes back and studies the work of everybody who preceded them to see if they made an error or mistake.
Okay, let's stick to the subject, man. Stick to the subject, Rashid. I'm saying, man, the Palestinians, man, they're getting pushed to the little, what do you call it? You said you had a house. You got just pushed into the corner of your bathtub toilet, dude. And the rest of the world, leading by the West, is, you know what I mean? That's the whole view right there. It's just like everybody know what's good, but who's controlling the chessboard?
Right. I see what
you know. Yeah, that's. I mean, to go. I mean, you could write anything, but the whole. I mean, luckily now there's a shift in the chessboard now. You know, it's equal. It's kind of semi-equal now. It's not only that. This is I think it's a great opportunity for every. I mean, every human race should be against that.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I'm good for the Jewish people, but can we draw a line so they could exist?
I can hear you. I'm sorry. It's like now. Could you speak up a little bit more? It's becoming more harder and harder for me to hear you. Could you speak up just a little bit?
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So my question is, it's the same thing with the Ukraine-Russia war, right? It's, they have an agreement, what's a misagreement, and then who's stopping it? Who stopped it when
Right.
they almost right? They had this sign, right? And who stopped it? You know, that's the question. Who stopped it? It was that who's that? The former British Prime Minister Gordon or something. Who was the last the white guy, the president? Do you
You
remember?
talking Trump? Oh, you
No,
talking about the U.S. president or
no. The British, the Prime Minister.
uh,
Who was that guy?
Boris Yeltsin?
No,
I mean
that's
Boris Johnson. Boris
yes.
Johnson.
He made the phone call to make the point, right? He fly over to say no, don't do it, right? Was it him?
I don't know who. I know that's what they say, but to
No,
me,
that's not that we say. That's a fact. But who's
I,
pulling the string? Who would give a crap what British say? Nobody give a crap what British say. Somebody's pulling the string, right? We just gotta
you know,
find out who.
man, we know who's pulling them strings. You know who is pulling the strings. So do I.
No, that no. We have a general idea. No, we want to know exactly who, but nobody's accountable. You see, the game is all messed up, man, and they can't fix it.
Well,
They don't know how to fix it. Pretty
and
simple.
that's why we're in the position we're in globally. And if it doesn't get fixed, this will lead, as I've been telling everybody for a year or so, that we're headed toward a MENA war. That is the Middle Eastern North African region. This will be a regional
Nah, man,
conflagration.
no, man,
Yeah.
no.
And listen, I get stuff in my ears from people in the know. And as I like, let me tell you something before I go on to another subject, because I'm glad to talk to
Go
you.
ahead.
But
Go ahead.
But I was on for the last few months, and I have been saying everybody was focused on Ukraine. And I go back and look at my shows.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah.
listen,
I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
everybody keeps talking about Ukraine, but I'm getting information from people in the Middle East that are telling me that the U.S., the UK, and NATO nations are building up for something major. Something major is about to happen in the Middle East. And as soon as it goes, everybody said, we had no hint or no clue. What do you mean? I'm a little channel and I get this stuff read in my ears
Okay,
by
so
intelligence
you're
agents.
saying okay, so you're saying the Hamas thing was stirred up by the British
What?
or the West or the West, right?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You got to speak up a little bit.
Okay, so you're saying who's pulling the strings over there for that?
Listen, when it comes to war, it's the United States and the UK that is fomenting everything over there, and former colonial powers.
There you go, man. Rashid, man. That's all it is, man. They colonize everybody, dude.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
time for the people to rise, but they're not waking up. So what do? People like us, we could talk about it, but what can we do?
I can't say what we can do on that.
No,
You
no,
want me
no.
to get? Hey,
But
do you
hey,
want me to
but you
get
know
kicked
what?
out there, kid?
No, no. But you see, you feel me? I mean,
Yeah,
we're living beings, and then we have a bunch of you know
yeah,
clowns running the show.
yeah, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
this is our, it's not yours, man.
Kid, man, good. Hey, kid, I tell you what, I'm gonna give you a little bit more time on the air with me next when I come back on, if you would like to. I want to get to some chat, some comments. Thank you, man. Keep
Yeah,
stay
yeah,
in the chat, man. Don't go anywhere. Stay in the chat. That's my guy. I'm glad he got on there. I'm glad I talked to this
man.
guy.
I mean, all right, man. See, it touches me, man. When you know, when
All right. Yeah.
we're not enough people to understand what's happening
Yeah. Yeah.
and to go around their business, man. You
Yeah.
know, there's
Yeah.
big things happening, man. Open your eyes and see.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
like you said, it could be a big war coming.
Yeah. You better believe it.
So, yeah, but how do we manage when the war breaks out?
Yeah. Well,
You
we'll
know,
talk. Yeah, we'll talk more about that shortly.
no, man, we might not have a chance. That's what I'm saying.
Kid is
Now
a
you
trip.
understand. It's not a trip, bro. They're fucking up. Excuse my language, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, who's running the show, man?
Yeah.
You know.
I got
Well,
you.
I will talk to you later. I'll talk to you next time.
All right, my guy. Thank you so much,
Okay,
man.
bye.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I talked again. I'm glad, and you know what I'm gonna start doing on some of the shows. I'm gonna start bringing you guys on to give your opinions on. I'm gonna start putting a link out sometimes, and so you guys can get in. Each one of you will get a minute or two to say your piece or whatever, and the next person to get on, because I think that's a productive way to continue going. But it's so much going on. Let me go back to some of the stuff that we missed. Uh, Joel was talking about the guy that not Ken. This is not you. He's talking about the guest. He says, Rashid, we don't need him. He's alive. Just rock out, Rashid. uh, um, Chi says non-compliance is the solution. Um, Holly Horn says colonial project. Cece says not enough trucks and UN was attacked. That's what nobody talks about that though. Nobody's talking about that. And Holly said when Ken asked about who do we get to look at that, because look at the situation, and Holly says China and Russia. So let's see. Uh, uh, Joel says Joel Joel is just out. Joel is something else. Oh my God, Joel. Joel, man, you hurt my side, man. You hurt my side. Oh man, Joel is something else. I'm glad Joel is a part of this chat, man. I'm telling you. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Let's go here. Ace Hampton. Thank you for joining us, Ace. Have you ever been in the chat before? It says what Gaza is to Israel, Israel is to the wider area, a nuisance and unwanted. However, Israel decides to finally deal with Gaza is how the wider area will eventually deal with them. Great, mic drop moment. Boom. That's a mic drop moment. Seriously. Let's see. Serious Biz says, Russia's been telling the West for years to stop encroaching. Isn't that what the Palestinians have been saying for decades? Stop encroaching. Perseverance from the UK. What's up, my guy? Says, sorry I'm late. Was catching up on Moats. Yeah. Well, our guest, Martin Sieff, he the show took a turn. And he got heated with, who was it that he got heated with in the chat first? MZ. He got heated with MZ in the chat and called him a Nazi and all of this stuff. And then when I talked to him and I was trying to tell him, listen, let's forget for a second about religion and perspective, and let's just deal with historical facts. And when I brought up historical facts, he told me he was out of here and he hung up. He got off there or whatever like that. So I don't think that it should have gone that way because I didn't insult him. I just challenged a couple of his views. And I didn't challenge him with my own views. I challenged him with facts that I pulled up. You understand? Facts that I pulled up. Historical facts. Rashid didn't write them, edit them, or come up with them. This is a historical record. These are records of things that I pulled up. And evidently, it was something that he did not want to hear or see. And he got fed up and he, but at least I can say this with him. At least he did not call me any names and at least not that I heard. Maybe he did. I don't know. He didn't call me any names and didn't curse me out or anything like that. And didn't act uncivilized with me. And maybe one day when he sits down and his anger subsides, he'll reach back out to him and say, you know what? I let my temper get the best of me, and I should have done that because you didn't disrespect me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So maybe we can sit down and we can talk a little bit more and blah, blah, blah. So because every one of our talks we've had, and he and I communicate more than just on the computer. So I don't understand what was so pressing about Israel that got him up in arms like that. I don't understand. But it is what it is, and life goes on. Let's go to the chat again. Let's see some more. Serious Biz says, and if it wasn't for Russia going all the way before the U.S. got in after Pearl Harbor, we'd all be speaking something else. You better believe it. And Serious Biz says losing 28 million people. Yeah, and that's fighting the Nazis, but the West gets the credit for that. And don't forget that Africa paid a huge price for the Nazis also. This gets left out. They fought the Nazis. Right? Even though they were colonies, they fought the Nazis, and they didn't get credit for that. Let's go for it. That's cool. I'm gonna put this up there, even though it wasn't meant for me. Holly Horn, he says, they kind of saved many of us, but the government needed that big bad boogeyman to do everything possible. Yeah, and so as we look, man, I'm telling you, why do people get so offended when we talk about truth? Why, as long as your perspective reigns supreme? I'm asking. And as long as you can hurl out unfounded innuendo, it's okay. But when your innuendo is met head on with facts, we get in our feelings. Why is that? I think a lot has to do with a religious perspective, a skewed religious perspective. And they have some on the Muslim side, they have some on the Jewish side, they have some on the Christian side. But you notice when I talked, I didn't just talk about the suffering of the Muslim Palestinians. I brought up the destruction of the third oldest church. Christians suffered. Christians were killed in that bombing of that church. Right? I talked about the loss of life with the Jews, even though the policy led to that. Right? So I wasn't a one-sided, and I noticed this by all of the pundits. I've said this to each and every one of you, all mainstream pundits, when they talk about, they always revert back to Israel's right to exist. That is to disarm your argument. Okay, and I'm not saying that Martin was doing it. I'm just saying all pundits that I watch always reverts back to Israel has the right to exist. And when they describe the problems that are going on in the Middle East between the Israelis and the Palestinians, they always talk about the suffering of the Israelis, and then they mute the suffering of the Palestinians, and they talk about the killing of civilians when Hamas took a military action, but they don't ever talk about the day in and day out, the night in and the night out of political and military persecution and killing of Palestinians up to that point. That gets muted out. And how can you have a fair, honest discussion without that? Huh? They want you to believe that the person got cancer. They don't want you to believe that it was either hereditary or it was caused by the lifestyle. This person has cancer. Well, let me go into and see what led up to the. Oh, you don't. No, they just have cancer. The cancer just popped up. What led up to them getting cancer? And if we don't dive into this, maybe we're ruining it for future generations if we don't find out the reason and then come up with a cure for the cause. Listen, what I tell you is the basic thinking of science, of scientists. This is what they do. Why can't we apply sound logic when we're dealing with issues like this? Why must it be so emotional, so backed up in religious fervor that we just throw away historical truths? What did I say? Everybody that's listening, what did I say that was not backed by facts? What did I say on this platform today that I could not pull up? Factual. Did I call anybody a name? Did I say Jews must be exterminated? No. I said I agreed that they have the right to exist. Just like the Palestinians have the right to exist. But you can't guarantee the right to exist for one without looking at the right to exist for the other. Isn't that why Russia is fighting right now? Because they say that they have a right to exist, and that the West continues to try to destroy and annihilate them, but they are determined to preserve their way of life and their right to exist. Isn't that what Russia is fighting for? Isn't that what Vladimir Putin, Lavrov, and the host of the Russian officials have declared many times over? Then why does that get muted when we're talking about Africa or Palestine or the Middle East or Latin America or some of the former Soviet republics or in Asia? Why does that only apply to Israel and Europe? I'm asking. Huh? I'm just asking. So let me go. It says Ace Hampton says, I think maybe in his heart he may even believe the same as all of us. He seems in his other interviews to have sympathy for the underdog. But hey, there are some conversations you can't have publicly. Absolutely. And that's why I didn't want to get on that subject. I wanted to talk around it at first. But then when you say certain things, listen, how honest would you guys think I am if I allow certain guests to get on and I'm challenging them on everything? And then when another guest get on, even though me and this guest is cordial, I just allow certain things to just go without challenging them in the way that I challenged everybody else. You would think that I was biased. You would think that I would be, and I would be, to constantly let that go. And I wouldn't be doing my job. Right? But I could not allow the accusation and innuendo of of beheading of children. And remember what I said to you all. This is something that everybody leaves out here. And this is no shot to back Hamas, but it's reality. Who are the people being called up to fight this war in Palestine? Huh? From the Israeli side. Who are those people? Just last week before last, there were civilians. But they're being called up. This is what I'm telling you. The majority of the people who were killed were not civilians in the sense that most people keep saying. These people are trained and they have an obligation, a 2-year, 4-year, whatever obligation to maintain their military doctrine and teachings. So they're not civilians the way the media presents them. They can fire a gun. They know warfare. They know this stuff. So don't try to say all these innocent civilians. That is not the case. And anybody who knows how the people are inducted into the Israeli military knows the truth. No, I'm not lying. And this is not a smash to Israel. I'm not trying to denigrate Israel or bring it down. I'm just saying, I'm not putting this on Israel. I'm putting it on the back of the Western media. The Western media openly lies and say, oh, these civilians were slaughtered. And then you look, they have military background. This is not right to do this stuff, man. And I know I'm alienating some people who were a part of the show. But listen, if I have to alienate you for truth, then it has to be what it is. I mean, I love you, but I love truth more. And I got to say this. That's why I started the platform. Because people were scared to say this stuff. Because they wanted 100,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers. They wanted to be in and out. They wanted to get the big paychecks. They wanted to be respected and have all the big guests. Man, I care 2 flips about that. Because so many people's lives are at stake with this. Right? Holly Horn says, truth hurts. Let's see. MZ says, seems radical. Seem radical. Yeah, I mean, Holly Horn said, I'll need to catch up on the replay. Let's see. And look at Holly Horn said, yes, thank you, Holly. Thank you. So the Western media would have you to believe that Hamas is a Muslim, all Muslim, right? They lump all of the Muslim, everybody in the Middle East as Muslim. They don't tell you that Palestine has a large amount of Christians and Jews. They don't tell you that Iran is not just comprised of Muslims. It is not just Shia. It's Sunni. It's Jewish. It's all of that. But the Western media, they want you to believe in black and white like that. And they don't want the church that was, listen, the church that was bombed in Gaza, Palestine. It's a church. It's not a mosque. It's not a synagogue. It's a church. We know that worshipers in churches are what? Christians. So the people most likely who were killed in that were Christians. Why isn't the Christian Western news covering this? Why aren't they saying something about this? Why does it take me to say this? Huh? And I'm going to say it because I love Jesus. I love him. I love his mission. I love his work. I love everything about him. And I'm going to say it. Just as if it was a Muslim being slaughtered. I love Muhammad. I love the teachings. I love his work. Just as if it was a synagogue being born. I love Moses. I love his work. I love his mission. All of this stuff. And you can't get anybody to hardly even say anything about, man, get out of here with this foolishness. So Solar Bear says, and I love that name, Solar Bear, man. I'm telling you, I love that name. Solar Bear. The way they play on words right here. Not SOLAR, but Soul Bear. UN is a farce, like Santa Claus. You naively believe in the good, but then you grow up and realize they were never there to start with. Yeah. And then let's see. Oh my God, Joel back at it again. Oh my God, Joel, you have given me the best laugh of the week, my guy. All right. Let's see. Serious Beard says I've been labeled at being militant from way back, but I'm sincerely not. Exactly like y'all are saying, truth hurts, and most don't want to address this. Much respect, chat and family. Exactly. Um. Thank you, Ace. Thank you. I gotta put that up there. I can't repeat it, but I can put it up there and highlight it. Thank you. So we got to go through all of this and play this divide game because we can't agree on this. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to agree with facts. Just because you don't believe 2 and 4 is 6 doesn't mean that it's 12 because you want it to be. That's not how life works. Oh, I don't care what Rashid says. I see he has a calculator, and I see he has mathematicians over here, and I see all of them say 10 times 10 is 100. But hey, it's always been 55 to me. The madness of this. Man, I'm telling you what. I tell you. Listen, it's crazy, man, and we have to deal with this every single day. And I come to you all because I'm prepared for this stuff. You know, I don't run from this. I don't run from the challenges. I'm prepared for this. I had a great mentor. Because my pops died when I was a young guy. So in the 80s or whatever, I met this guy early 80s, mid 80s, by the name of Saladin. Yeah, one of the greatest warriors in the annals of history. He had the name Saladin. I never forget him. Saladin Mahdi Muhammad. And he taught me the respect for human beings, the respect for life. My mom taught me this stuff. He taught me geopolitics. He took the time out. And he didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. He told me what I needed to hear. And I'll never forget one time, I was a teenager. I got to share this story with you. So he comes to get me. Me and my girlfriend is going through it. He comes pick me up. Just got out of work. He said, "Now get in the car with me. Get in the car with me." And so we're driving. He had 2 or 3 jobs, you know. And he said, "You get in the car with me." He considered me as a son of his. And so as we're driving, we're in the middle of traffic, and he knows something is not right with me, right? And so I'm talking to him, and I'm feeling down. And he asked me what was going on. I told him, and he threw the car and parked in the middle of afternoon traffic. I mean, the streets were packed, and the man grabbed me by my shirt, and he was going off on me in the car to be a man. And this is what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And I'm looking at him like, oh my God. But that's what I needed to hear. And sometimes what we need to hear is not what we want to hear. And sometimes it's unpalatable at the moment, but in reality, hey, turn it down a little bit. But it's unpalatable at the moment. And but over time, we realize it is to our benefit. And so that's why I'm telling you, this is why I tell you these things, because I know people don't like to hear it and people are scared to say it. But hell, I tell you, I'm a man and been one for a long time now. How can I go and tell my son and show my son how to be a man and be a punk on the air? How can I show my son how to respect truth and respect life and respect others if I'm not going to do that? Children watch you. They don't just listen to you, they watch you. You understand? Let me go to the chat again. It says, yeah, listen. Perseverance Chameleon says, some people prefer to believe the brainwashing rather than facts. All I offer is facts. I put it up there. I say, listen, this is not me. I didn't make the maps. I didn't record this historically. I didn't write the resolution. I had no part in any of this. All I'm doing is putting it up there and asking you, well, if we're going to talk about international law and we're talking about getting to the solution of something, and everybody continues to say, this is the roadmap, then how about we examine what the roadmap actually says? And when I examine the roadmap, oh, that's nothing but BS. That's what they said. What? But it wasn't 20 minutes ago or an hour ago or 2 days ago. Why? I'm telling you, man, Joel says, listen, have a cup of hot tea on me. Thank you, Joel. Why? I'm telling you, why? Why is when we get these inconvenient truths that we act so irrational? I got children looking at me. I'm responsible for their well-being. I'm one of their main stewards in their lives. How can I, on one hand, teach them ethics and morality, and at the other hand, when it don't suit me, I shirk that responsibility of ethics and morality? Huh? A lot of people don't like this, and a lot of people can't deal with me because I am what I am. I'm a straight shooter, everybody. In case you didn't notice, I'm a straight shooter. If I have something to say to you, I'll say it to you. And if I say it wrong to you, I'm man enough to come back and say, hey, listen, I apologize for the way I said that to you, but I don't apologize for what I said because what I said was right. It's just that I was wrong in the way that I delivered it to you. You understand? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with admitting that you're wrong on something? That's why the world is in the position that it is in, because America doesn't want to admit that she's wrong. She doesn't want to admit that she is the cause of the problem in Ukraine, that she's the problem and the cause of the problem in North Africa, that she's the cause of the problem in what's going on in South America. She's the cause of the problem of the spinning out of control of crises all across Asia. She's the cause of the problem with the German economy, the European economy, the British economy. They don't want to own up to anything that they do, but they want you and demand that you do it. Now make that make sense. Are there any real men and women in Washington, D.C.? Are there any real men and women in Paris or London or in Brussels or Berlin? Are there any real men there who are willing to take a step back, look at the situation as it is, not as we want it to be, but as it is now? Examine that situation, dissect it, and see how they managed to arrive at that situation. And then try to come up with a suitable and acceptable way out of that situation that is detrimental and dire to the very livelihood of your people and your nations. Huh? I'm just asking. Why is it on the back of everybody else? If you're supposed to be the elected official, shouldn't you do your job? And if you don't do your job and can't do your job, shouldn't you get the hell out of office and let somebody else that can do it, do it? Huh? Perseverance says no real men or women in government. I concur. We can see the proofs of that with the policies that continue to be initiated and enacted by these governments, by the United States, by the UK, by Germany. Who in the hell will sacrifice the livelihood of 70 million people? I think that's how many Germany has, 60, 70 million people. Just because America says we're going to declare Russia our enemies. And now your people are suffering. Your economy is suffering. Your industrial output is falling. Your economy is falling. Your tax revenue and tax base is falling. And yet inflation continues to rise, and you are the economic engine to the EU, which means that when the economic engine comes to a halt and stalls out, guess what happens? The entirety of the European Union economy implodes. All because you want to hitch your wagon to a lunatic horse called the United States. And you telling me you grown? You telling me you're a man or you're a woman? You telling me you're doing what's vital, what of the vital interests of your nation? Man, get out of here with that foolishness. I don't know who you think you're dealing with. Oh, man, listen, I didn't mean to keep you guys here this long. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't even know. We're having these discussions. We're talking. We have the good banter back and forth, and I didn't realize over 2 hours had passed. So I'm not going to try your patience and continue on with the show. We'll try to have a free. My son is trying to set up now. So look in the community section of this platform on YouTube tomorrow. All right, we're going to try to have a live show either tomorrow or Friday on Patreon, but it'll be free, so you'll be able to watch it. And if we're not able to do it like that, then what we'll do is try to have it on the other platforms like we normally have. But we're trying to expand, because you know what's happening here, and you know what we have to go through here. So we're trying to do other things. Also, remember to join us tomorrow as we try to stream live again. And remember, do not forget to show up and show out Friday, as we have Tom Longo on our show Friday. All right. On that note, know that I love you, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that my God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, and let me say something to you before we depart. How about we start looking at each other like God looks at us? How about we always talk about God and righteousness? How about you start trying to do right? Not because anybody's watching, but because it's the right thing to do. How about you start respecting life and the sanctity of life? How about you start doing that as people? And maybe God will forgive us of our trespasses. Because we talk forgiveness and we talk God, and yet we do everything that is the antithesis of forgiveness and God. So how about we be men and women now and make a pledge to try to do what's right under the eyesight of God as we go forth from this day on. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I'm out of here. You know what? Deuces.